Okay, hello and welcome to another episode of Hiring and Inspiring. Today's guest is Marcus Lavender. Marcus is a fellow recruitment consultant based here in Melbourne as well. He's new-ish to the industry, been in the game for a few years now, and I know, from what I understand, he's been doing some good things. He works for Smart Recruitment, so I'm looking forward to catching up with him today, finding out how he's been getting on in those few years, what's going on in the current time, and just provide him, as usual, an opportunity for him to reflect on his career to date and just to generally chew the fat, all things recruitment. So, Marcus, with that introduction, mate, welcome to the
Thank
show.
you, Joe. Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I'm extremely humbled to be asked on, and looking forward to having a bit of a chat.
Great stuff. Well, great to have you on. Let's start a little bit in the present. How's this year gone so far for yourself? How's this 2024 up and down? I'm hearing from other recruits I'm speaking to, bit of a mixed bag. How have you gone so far this year in the present? Let's say.
Yeah, no, I think up and down's a really good way to put it. Actually, as we know, the market swings, and it's almost violent swings that we've seen over the last few years. So up and down's a really, really good way to put it. It's just interesting, sort of seeing how it all works and the I suppose different factors that can affect what's going on.
And what
But
about?
yeah,
Sorry, mate. What about your focus? What in terms of the types of roles and industries you're in
yeah.
at Smart? What's your typical maybe day to day at the moment?
Yeah, sure. So, look, we focus on mainly sales and service. We also do, some office support, but business development's probably been the golden ticket for us. I know it's something that you're familiar with, Joe.
Yeah.
They're sort of the areas that we work in. I do a lot of work in contact centers personally, and Smart as a brand as well. I suppose it's just connecting with those contact center leaders and really having those great conversations to sort of drive the business.
Yeah, gotcha. And I know you recently celebrated 3 years with Smart and 3 years in the industry. How would you sort of, this is more of a personal level, how would you
Yeah.
sum up the experience so far? How have you found those 3 years?
Yeah, it's been a crazy ride, and I know that's funny to say, speaking to obviously a seasoned professional like yourself, but yeah, the 3 years has been hectic. But to be honest, I've enjoyed every single second of it. I'm so glad that I went to agency. It was a big decision, no doubt, but absolutely thrilled with the last 3 years, and just obviously joined, and we'll speak a little bit about Smart, but an amazing company in Smart Recruitment, the care that they have for their people, and I'm just overjoyed to be on the team, to be honest.
Yeah.
Really, really, really hectic 3 years, and looking forward to many more as well. So overall, I would say, extremely enjoyable, but as we sort of touched on earlier, lots of ups and downs.
Yeah. And what about some of those highlights? Maybe you've
Yeah.
enjoyed a lot of it by the sound of things. What's been
Yeah.
some big wins or some moments that you can maybe really cherish? What have you really enjoyed about those 3 years so far?
Look, a bit of a buzz phrase at the moment is and I hate to say it, but personal growth. So I think for myself, just I can see, I've matured so much in the last 3 years. Coming into recruitment, I was a spotty faced, I hate to say immature, but kid that sort of didn't know what I was getting myself into in the
Okay.
agency world. And and I've just looking back and reflecting, I've matured a whole heap. Resilience is such a vital skill in recruitment, probably something that I didn't realize how big it was. It's sort of, assisted me in other facets of my life, working in recruitment, building up on intangible skills, that have, really sort of played a big part, in me outside work as well as inside work, and really shaped who I am now. So, as funny as it sounds, I owe the industry a lot,
Yeah.
personally. And it's, as I said, it's just a move that I'm so grateful that I made. In terms of highlights, definitely, I suppose the thrill of business development is definitely something that I've grown to enjoy, I think, and there's nothing quite like a big win when you do sort of bring on some new business, or you place a really big role. They're the wins that are really celebrated, I think, and that's what Smart's really good at doing as well. And it's why it's such a great team to be a part of.
That resilience you mentioned, you've developed, let's say, and you've realised that you've had, and you've been able, which is great to hear, you've been able to apply it to situations outside of work as well. And that's how I always sell recruitment to people. Maybe if they're coming in, it's like, you can use this job as a tool to improve your life outside of work. It's a metaphor for life. How did you, and this is because I think a lot of people who get into the industry struggle with, is that when they take a few knocks early on, they struggle to recover from. It sounds like, you've been here 3 years, you've been able to get over the challenges and setbacks. How did you do that? And it's something I'm interested. Do you think you always had that resilience, or is it something you had to develop?
That's a great question. Definitely something that I've developed. When I did get in the industry, it was definitely something that I wasn't strong at. And yeah, as you would know, Joe, it's really hard to sort of, not only be successful but survive in recruitment if you aren't able to build up that resilience. Definitely something that I've developed. Our leadership team here has been awesome in assisting me develop that, and really sort of providing me with the tools to develop it. It is a mental thing, obviously. So I suppose, being able to bounce back when something doesn't go my way, or when someone falls off. It's so vital. It's such a vital tool, and it's so funny because whenever I interview people who are applying for jobs at Smaart, for instance, it's always on my list of questions that I want to quiz them on, because it's just important that they know, number one, what they're getting into, and number two, that bad things are going to happen. Because recruitment's such a roller coaster, and the ability to build that resilience and to I suppose understand that it's such an important skill is really vital for the new starters and the new entrants into the industry.
Yeah, I'm just interested. How do you actually go about deciding how resilient someone is when you are interviewing them? Because anyone can sort of say in an interview, "Yep, I'm resilient." How do you sort of dig out and
100%.
aim to understand how resilient an individual is?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's so funny. I was actually just having this conversation with one of my colleagues who, yes, I actually interviewed her when she applied to work at Smart, and yes, I did ask it. I often look for and sort of press applicants on resilience outside of their professional career. So in their personal career, without going sort of too personal, obviously. But it might even just be resilience to do with hobbies that they might have. So for me personally, one of my big hobbies is sport. And it's hearing about what resilience is in sport, and then their ability to sort of explain it and even identify a few circumstances where they've really had to show that resilience. Because obviously that will then be transferable to their working life as well.
Yeah.
So it's a good question.
I always think resilience is something I think about. It's mainly your ability, how quickly you bounce back.
Yeah.
Resilience is your ability to bounce back, but to define like how resilient you are is how quickly you can get back on the horse. Because in recruitment, you lose deals, bad stuff happens, you have setbacks. It's more about if you spend a couple of days moping about, having a whinge, and then finally maybe get back to it, maybe you're not that resilient.
Yeah.
It's more about if you can quite quickly maybe take 5 minutes and then back in, that's someone who's resilient. It took me a long time to get to that level as well.
Exactly.
That's something that resonates.
Yeah, 100%. And as you said, if it takes a couple of days, that's a couple of days with zero productivity, and that obviously affects your desk. So
exactly,
you're spot on. Yeah, absolutely spot on. And it's just to move on, to accept it. I think accepting it's a big part of it as well. And then to move on and move on to bigger and hopefully better things.
Yeah, for sure. So if you look at yourself, compared to 3 years ago, you developed that level of resilience. What about other professional skills or stuff you have developed as a salesperson, recruiter, individual? What else do you think you've improved on since?
Yeah, good question. I think like people skills and conversation skills is something that I've always had, and it's probably been a strength it's probably been a strength in my personal life, and that's family, that's friends, but that's also sport for me, my local sport. So I think that my ability to improve on my people skills in a professional sense has been something that I've really developed. Because there's two sides of it, isn't there? There's the more casual, the matey sort of approach, and then there's the professional approach when you're at work, and you're talking business, and it's having that approach, being approachable for clients and for candidates, and communication is massive in that, and obviously the people and social skills, and I'd love to think that a lot of my clients would love to catch up and have a sherbet or a beer or two with me, because that's sort of how I run my desk is like that.
Yeah, that sort of business acumen is kind of what I guess you're getting at.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it's something, because you sort of come into business, you don't really know anything, and then as you learn, you learn from you learn from the industry, right? I imagine you learn from the clients you speak to. That's for me anyway. That's how I sort of picked it up.
It's how you develop your experience, isn't it? It's,
for sure.
Yeah.
What about you mentioned ups and downs. What about areas that have been challenging in the last 3 years? Maybe areas that you've struggled with, still are struggling with, areas for improvement. What can you touch on there?
Yeah, good question, Joe. I suppose as time goes on, I do tick boxes, I suppose, of things that I want to improve on. I think the biggest one for me presently is, and I think it's really important for all recruiters, is the ability to actually be proactive. So as we know, you have your quiet spells, you have your really busy spells, but when you are sort of, you might not be working on too many roles. It's that ability to, and I suppose it is account management, is to be proactive with current and previous clients, and just have those conversations. And it doesn't need to be, what kind of roles are you recruiting on at the moment? It's just really sort of kickstarting that conversation. It might be a catch up on a coffee catch up, for instance, and just for a chat, ask how the wife and kids are, for instance. And it's connecting on that personal level with your past and present clients is really important. And it's definitely something that I want to improve on. And at Smart, we've got a big focus on it as well. And I suppose, I'm actually really thankful to Smart for placing that focus on it, because it definitely develops, it develops a skill for all of our consultants.
Is the kind of activity that doesn't necessarily help you hit your target that month or your KPI that week, but it long term can have great impacts and can really help you down the track, isn't it?
Sustainability, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's sort of, when you're under the pump a little bit and I need to get stuff done, you kind of put that to I'll do that. I don't need to speak to them right now. I've got more pressing stuff to do. I've got a target to hit.
Yeah.
But if you block out time for doing those kind of activities, say every week, you'll benefit the fruits of that labor that down the track. So, mate, really, really like that.
Yeah.
You've bigged up Smart quite a bit on this chat already. Talk to me a bit about the business, why you are such a fan. What are they doing well? How have they helped you? And that you mentioned the leadership team as well. What kind of sort of leadership techniques have they employed to help you and develop you as a recruiter in the last 3 years?
Good question. Look, it's a funny one, because the leadership team, they're amazing. First off, as I've said, they're so well tenured at Smart. So, there's 10 plus years. Most of the leadership team has sort of been here for 10 plus years. So I suppose they've really been able to develop the culture that they want, and that's important to them. And obviously it's something that suits myself. But I think for me, Marty, our managing director, he's a sports guy like myself. So I suppose just being able to sort of, come in and talk about the footy results, it makes it, really, obviously really enjoyable for me to come into work every day, but it actually motivates me. And I think that's what they really nail. That's what they really nail is, being able to connect with all consultants and all employees on that personal level. So for another consultant, it might be something different, but just being able to sort of connect with them on that personal level is really important. And I think for motivation for staff, it's massive. The other thing is they no tasks too big or small for our leaders, and it's something that we all really appreciate. Them sort of jumping on, assisting with whatever is needed to do. They do so much work. It's unbelievable how much work they do. But yeah, no, I'm just really thankful to be able to work with the people that I do. And yeah, I just want to press on it again. It's the motivation piece, and I think it's really important for all businesses. Really, is to make sure that the staff are motivated and don't feel like it's a drag to come into work every day, and that's what Smaart really do.
It sounds like quite selfless leadership as well. Like, as you say, taking on tasks, even if their to-do list is, pretty long and they've got lots of impressing things to do. If you come to them with something, it sounds like they'll take it on. They'll always make time for you.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, spot on. Yeah.
And what about the business as a whole? How have you seen it progress? Is it mainly maybe next sort of few years? What do you see Smaart going, or where do you see the business taking off, and how do you sort of plan to help them out, I guess?
Yeah, no, good question. Well, was it 2 weeks ago, I was lucky enough to go to the RSCA Awards night, and we were actually awarded with the Outstanding Agency Under 30 Staff. So I suppose that says a few things. But first off, like what a great year we've had, I suppose, and that's client experience, it's candidate experience. It's everything holistically. So that was a massive feather in our cap, and something that we definitely celebrated, especially on the night. But I think the next step is, obviously it was under 30 staff, is just that growth. We've got teams in Adelaide. We've got a team in Adelaide. We've just started a Brisbane team, which is super exciting. We've had Sydney in the past as well, but Melbourne's obviously the hub. But it's, I suppose it's that growth and trying to lift that employee rate above the 30 mark.
Yeah. Okay.
And just keep growing and keep that exposure going. And I think that it's sort of probably my responsibility and my colleagues' responsibility to keep giving Smaart that name in the industry and with businesses around, especially Melbourne, but also Adelaide and Brisbane. That we're an agency that's a little bit different. We're fun. We're probably a little bit more casual, and that's a dirty word sometimes, but it's how we are. It's how we run our business. So yeah, for sure, it's that upward trend and trying to grow and trying to grow exposure to wider businesses around Australia as well.
And what about personally? You talk about the business there yourself. What are some maybe personal goals, some future goals that you've got in the next few years? Because you mentioned at the start, you're hopefully a long time.
Good question. Yeah. I don't have. It's funny because I do think about this a lot. So it's funny just looking at it and reflecting and almost obviously looking forward. But there's nothing sort of that I can quantify. It's literally just coming into work every day and taking it on a day by day sort of basis and literally just getting better every day. Making less mistakes. And yeah, just getting better, improving my recruitment process. So I'm a very process-driven individual. Sometimes it's to my detriment, but it's probably why I struggled with resilience in the first place, to be honest. But just sort of getting better, improving my processes, making things smoother, making my client experience better on the back of it as well. But yeah, nothing sort of quantifiable.
No, I really like that, to be honest. I sometimes think you sort of having big goals, or setting yourself up for, right, in 5 years I want to be doing this, or whatever, in 2 years I want to have done this much revenue, or it's sort of, it can set you up for a little bit of because if you don't hit those goals, you suddenly you're kind of disappointed. And even if you have made a lot of progress in that time, I think where you're onto is just like, my goal is just to come in tomorrow, be a little bit better than I was yesterday.
100%.
And then if you do that over a period of time, the goals almost look after themselves sometimes, is what I find. Mate, I would love to actually just switch it up and talk about when you first got into the industry. So 3 years ago, you were working before Smaart. You were working in the corporate world.
Yes, I was. Yeah.
So talk to me about that sort of switch up. How did you end up leaving that role,
Yeah.
end up working in recruitment? How did that all play out?
Good question. Yeah. So I previously, I worked at NAB, and I was actually at NAB for 5 years. And I did that. NAB were fantastic for me. I actually started working there. I was only 18. So yeah, that they were awesome. I was studying at the same time. So I've got a commerce and law degree as well. But that they were amazing. I was so flexible, obviously, when I was studying, but they showed me all the different parts of the business, which I think is really important. They really sort of, as you can imagine, as a kid, sort of stepping into the corporate world, they were amazing in holding my hand and showing me, the risk side, the sales side, the marketing side, and everything in between. So that was awesome. The way the move came about, I found that I was increasingly interested in HR, and I suppose that sort of goes hand in hand with loving talking first off, and loving meeting new people, and
Yeah.
having these people skills. So they showed me the recruitment side. So obviously I've seen internal. I did a few recruits at NAB, so a few bulk intakes, which I really enjoyed. I actually enjoyed interviewing back then, which I can't believe now, but yeah, and I really enjoyed it. And one of my, I suppose, mentors at NAB, she sort of floated the idea to go into agency, and I sort of didn't take it seriously first like when she first said it, but then the more I thought about it, the more I thought it would be a good idea. And it's a really funny story, because my mum was actually a client of Smaart at the time, so that was sort of how it all happened. And yeah, I'm thrilled it did, because as I said, I've really enjoyed the last 3 years. It's very different. NAB's a massive corporation, as we know, and Smaart, as I've said, is under 30 people in the business.
Yeah.
So massive difference. I always have these conversations with candidates as well. The difference between a large corporation and a smaller business. But for me, and everyone's different, but for me, I've definitely enjoyed this. Being a smaller business, and really feeling valued, like ultimately valued. Not to say I wasn't at NAB, but I definitely was at NAB as well. But yeah, no, really enjoyed it. And I found the transition probably as smooth as you could. I think doing some recruitment internally for NAB has been really helpful. But I found the transition really smooth. And I think being in the corporate world, obviously they're the roles that I specialize in at Smaart. So just having seen the other side of it has been a real plus. And knowing the lingo, knowing how contact centers work, knowing the markers and what's important, workforce management has been really important in my role, and being able to consult, I think, as well, to businesses. I think that's a really underrated part of our role, is actually the consulting side of things.
Okay.
And not just the recruitment, but that's really helped me. My time at NAB has really helped me with that.
Well, I was going to ask, what you picked up from your time at NAB, but you answered it just there. Like, there's loads of, sounds like it was really a valuable experience. Now, starting, you're still sort of, you're reflecting on it now, that stuff that you learned then is helping you out in your day job today. So
yeah,
great to hear. I think, and the stuff about working for a small company, something I personally resonated with. I've never worked for a big company, so I only know small company, but it is pretty cool. It's like you can make a bit of a name for yourself quicker, and company, you can be a bit more agile, and you don't have to jump through hoops to say, I don't know, you have a crazy idea. You just have to pitch it to your boss, and if they give you a yes, then you're away. So
spot on.
Completely agree with that. Well, what about I'm interested about the story with your mum. So she was working with Smaart, and then she said, these guys are great. How about you? How did that play out?
That's literally what happened. So our general manager, our general manager worked with my mum. So my mum has worked in contact centers contact center leadership for the last 30 plus years. So she's used agency previously. She's used internal. She's used different agencies. And she just gave Smaart to me a really glowing recommendation, and she said, you would fit in here. So that's sort of how it came about. And I think that at the time it happened, my mum was my general manager Stars was actually doing a recruit for mum. So it sort of came up in conversation, you know, they
Yeah.
might have been talking about a candidate and then, oh, by the way, my son Marcus sort of was, yeah. So that's actually how it came about. So it went really quickly, really, really
Yeah.
quickly. Yeah.
Oh, good on mum. Helping out there. I love that. You've touched upon your sporting background a few times.
Yeah.
I know you're pretty involved with a few of your local sports teams. How, because it's something I do as well. I play football and have done over the years, and it's something I personally use it as a bit of a release from the ups and downs and stresses of recruitment. But what's the importance to you of sport? I know it's something you wanted to touch on, how you sort of balance the two, being heavily involved whilst doing the recruitment job. Well, what can you sort of tell me all about that?
Yeah, no, they're like massive parts of my life. So I play footy and cricket, so AFL footy, not football.
I figured, mate.
I'm useless at both. The playing side definitely isn't my strength.
Okay. Oh, okay, right.
But for our footy club, I'm actually the CFO.
Yeah.
So controlling all the finances, and it's a massive job. So yeah, the balance is a really hard balance to strike. Something I struggle with. I'm lucky, my girlfriend helps me a lot with it.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, no, it's something that I definitely struggle with. But as you said, it's the release. It's sort of not always thinking about, what's happened today. Oh no, my candidate has withdrawn or whatever. It's almost, really helps take my mind off what's happening at work. And that's really important. That's really important because, if you sort of are thinking about work 24/7, the natural burnout does happen, I've found. So it's definitely something that's massive for me, and I really enjoy doing as well. So obviously I play as well, but I really enjoy doing. I captain our cricket club, so cricket season's really hectic as well. But yeah, no, it's definitely something that's really important for my performance at work, I think.
Yeah.
The ability to be behind a desk all day, then to go to footy training and run around on the ground, it's really important mentally, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. What are the teams, mate? Give them a shout out.
Yeah, no. So the East Brighton Vampires. We're traveling. We're not traveling too badly, which is good this season. And the Cludon Cricket Club, which is just a very boutique little cricket club, and I've been at both clubs since I was seven years old. So pretty much part of the furniture, 20 plus years now. So it's scary to think.
How much time does the finance role? How much, like say in a week? How much time are you spending on that?
Yeah, at least 2 or 3 hours a night.
Really?
Lots of reconciliation, lots of emails. Dealing with sponsors is massive. Dealing with the local council is really big as well. We're pretty lucky. Like the committee at the footy club in particular, and the cricket club actually, we're very, very tight. We're very close mates. So people sort of jump on and help. The secretary's awesome. He sort of helps me out with the council. But yeah, no, definitely a couple of hours each night, which, as you can imagine, from work, then I get to training. Whenever 6:30 or whenever I train for an hour or a little bit more, and then I go home and just sort of hop on the finances. It's it can get pretty hectic. But as I said, it keeps me going and it keeps my mind ticking over. So
I completely agree. It's so important. You need that. Yeah, as I say, we talk about the release. The community around you. You need those hobbies in this job, I think, because sometimes it can be. I've seen other people. I've seen myself. You fall into the trap of it just becoming your life.
Yeah,
recruitment. I've had even when I in the off season from football, or when haven't been playing for a bit. I suddenly stop myself, and I'm like, man, what have I actually done recently apart from work? I haven't done anything. So you kind of need to have, in my opinion, you need to have those hobbies, and just so you're not just this. You don't get too all consumed by this recruitment job that we do.
No, it's an important point, Joe, just because I see it as a hobby as well. So sort of seeing it as a hobby, and obviously, they're clubs that I really care about. So, really motivated to put my best foot forward and help out however I can.
Nice, mate. I've got one final question for you.
Yeah.
My typical closing question: the idea of success, and it's something I'm interested in because every salesperson, recruiter, they do this job, this crazy job for us that we do. Sorry, for different reasons. and you can take this personally or professionally. What is success to you in your job and your life? How do you define a sort of successful life?
Great
For Marcus?
question. And again, I'm not going to sound like a recruiter, and I'm not going to sound like like I'm in sales. But for me, I suppose success for me is, and it's a little bit emotional, but getting the recognition from the people that I care about. So my family, my friends, but also my managers who and the leadership team here who I sort of classify as in that bracket as well. We're so close, obviously, but I love feedback and recognition in professional and personal life. So at the end of the day, getting a tap on the back and saying, oh, great work, that's what success is for me. Is almost satisfying others, satisfying the people that I care about is so important. And it's not a sales target, it's not something that you can quantify at work, but it's that's just sort of that's really important to me personally.
Love that. I actually resonate with that quite a lot, because I think what you said about earlier on about being sort of grateful for the guys at Smart giving you a shot when you didn't necessarily have heaps of experience. It's about sort of repaying them a little bit.
Spot on. Yeah.
And then when you do get that pat on your back, you're like, I've done it.
Yeah. Literally spot on.
I was the same. Like when I first moved out to Australia, I had 1 year recruitment experience, so pretty unproven. Yeah. And that was my sort of why initially. My first few years in, I was like, I need to, they've given me a shot to move to the other side of the world. I need to sort of pay them back.
Repay them back, yeah. No, it's a great point. It's spot on, yeah.
Mate, really appreciate you coming on the show with me today. I like your style a lot. I think you're only just getting started. 3 years in, long and successful recruitment career ahead for you, mate. I appreciate you sharing everything you did with me on my show. And just a big thank you for joining me.
Marcus Lavender. Thank you. Thanks so much for having me, Joe. And just from, I suppose, myself and everyone at Smart, we love what you do as well. So, you keep doing you, and we'll keep watching and listening.
Thanks, mate.